mighty rivers. Perhaps you find yourself transfixed by the beauty of wildlife as it runs, swims, lives, and thrives. Or maybe it's not even the diversity of things that grips you, but the power of that one unique wonder, which in all the world is without parallel, whose beauty calls you back again and again and again. What is your wonder? Whatever it is, we have it here. Visit Zimbabwe, a world of wonders.
Well, it is good to be with you this evening. Good evening and welcome. This is the main news. My name is Butler Nepurem.
I'm Vicky Maponga. It's always a wonderful pleasure to have you with us here on the main news on ZBC TV. Piswe Jomonyika at the sign language desk. These are the stories that we are leading with tonight.
Top stories on this bulletin this hour. A Thai national who had absconded from Wilkins Hospital before being tested for coronavirus voluntarily returns for screening.
In our look at business news, RBZ's strategic position on fuel supply gradually paying dividends.
Later on in your sport, Warriors coach concerned about Algeria ties uncertainty as coronavirus fuels speculation. We're getting details on that later on when Ian Roma joins us with your sport. But of course, the biggest story that we continue to follow is the story on COVID-19. Now, the 26-year-old Thai national who had absconded from Wilkins Hospital before being tested for coronavirus on Sunday has voluntarily returned to the hospital and has undergone screening processes.
Indeed, and Harare City Health Director Dr. Prosper Chonzi confirmed that development. Let's get more detail in the following report.
Thai national whom we had admitted to Wilkins Hospital on Sunday and who had absconded from the hospital before we completed our investigations is today self-reported to Wilkins Hospital authorities. We have since completed the processes that we intended to do on Sunday. We had examined him again, we examined him today. Clinically, he looked very well, no fever, no respiratory symptoms. So we took the test, we took the swab, we submitted it to the National Reference Laboratory at Harare Hospital, and we also submitted a specimen to the National Institute of Communicable Diseases in South Africa for an external validation test. The fact that he was asymptomatic, had completed 14 days of without any symptoms in Zimbabwe, as recommended by WHO, gave us comfort in that maybe he would be negative. And also the fact that he had come from Thailand via a responsible airline through a Thara airport in Dubai also gave us comfort that he probably was going to be a negative patient. But anyway, we will wait for the result. We should be out.
Harare City Health Director there, Dr. Prosper Chonzi. Now, a pistol with 80 rounds of ammunition is among the items recovered by Bindura police following the arrest of 3 suspected robbers.
The arrest of 3 suspect robbers in Bindura has led to the recovery of a star pistol with 18 rounds of ammunition and several household properties worth $300,000. 7 plasma televisions, 11 car batteries, 8 cell phones and 5 gas tanks are among some of the recovered goods. Bindura District Criminal Investigations Officer Chief Superintendent Jeremiah Murenje said the suspects are linked to 17 robbery cases carried out in surrounding areas that include Shamva since January last year.
This gang is linked to 17 cases, which we think we will clear 2 armed robberies, 8 robberies plain, and 7 unlawful entry cases, all which were happening or occurring in Shamva area. We still have some suspects still at large, and our boys are on their heels.
Chief Superintendent Murenje appealed to the public not to buy property from dubious people as they risk losing it through forfeiture. He also advised people to write down serial numbers of electronic gadgets or place marks for easy identification.
Now, over the past 2 years, government has focused on a number of developmental projects, key among them rehabilitation of key infrastructure from energy to road construction. On the line, we have, in fact, live, we have Theophilus Chuma. He's going to be speaking to the Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, Honorable Joel Bigimatiza, on the progress of some of these key projects. Theophilus, good evening, and it's over to you.
Yes, indeed. Road construction is one of the key projects that the government has been looking at, and they have dedicated at least $1 billion to ensure that they rehabilitate the country's roads, are one of the most important and critical areas for economic recovery. Now, to discuss this, I am going to be joined by the Honourable Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, Honourable Joel Bigimatiza. Good evening, Honourable Minister.
Good evening.
All right. One of the critical areas, road construction. Obviously, this is one of the major focus for the government 2 years on. Tell us, to date, what has been the progress regards the state of rehabilitating our country's roads as well as construction?
Thank you. As you are aware, for the past 20 years, there's not been much progress on our roads. There has been lots of dilapidation, and now, during this new dispensation, with the incoming of our President, His Excellency the President, Idi Mnangagwa, the impetus on making sure that our roads are trafficable is great. We can see that in every province, in every district, there's activity taking place to make sure that the roads are trafficable. So this is where we are now. We have made a lot of strides in trunk roads, Harare Mutare, Harare Bulawayo, and now the Harare Masingo. Even Harare Chirundu, we are there as well.
All right.
Making sure that work is in progress.
Let me interject the Honourable Minister. 781 kilometers targeted upon completion overall, but against that statistic, how much progress has been recorded to that?
Well, lots of progress has been done in terms of percentages. We have escalated the work to such an extent that the roads in almost of all the provinces, interconnecting provinces, interconnecting districts, things that were not there are happening.
All right. All right. One of the national interest, obviously, is the Masingo Harare Highway. Obviously, it's one of those roads that has been at the center of attention for everyone. Just looking at the progress on that road, obviously we are looking at progress being recorded, but where exactly has progress been recorded?
Well, there has been a lull in the activities in that road for quite some time now. We have been talking about this road, but now the progress is there. If you look at, if you go through the road, there's a hive of activities. 5 contractors are already working. Local contractors are now working on the road so that we have state-of-the-art road that connects the north-south corridor. This is where we are now.
All right. Yeah. All right. Now, Honourable Minister, I'm going to ask you to give us an illustration of where exactly we will be standing come the end of 2020. By illustrating on this whiteboard, where exactly are we going to be in terms of the timelines for 2020, road construction on Masingo Harare Highway? You talked about the contractors. Give us the phases. Just write down the phases as they...
Okay, this is Bait Bridge, right? Coming to Harare. This is divided into 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually 6. So each one will be taking about 40 kilometers per year. So we expect to have 40 kilometers, 40 kilometers, 40 kilometers this year with 6 contractors. 40 times 60.
It's 240 kilometers.
These are our target.
So that's exactly what we will be seeing in 2020, 240 kilometers of road completed, especially on this highway.
This is our target, 240.
And how will you be implementing it? How are you going to be ensuring that the contractors abide by these timelines? What is your roadmap as the government?
Well, we have put up, we've contracted a project manager who is going to look at this project to make sure that it succeeds in time management, firstly, and secondly, in quality management. So that we want to make sure that everyone who plies that road feels the work of the indigenous local people, how they can adapt, they can deliver. As you can see now on the road, they have the hive of activity that's taking shape.
All right. So that's the Honourable Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, Honourable Joe Bigimatiza, just outlining where exactly the road project for the Masvingo Harare Highway will stand come the end of 2020. And of course, overall, the government is targeting at least 781 kilometers, as well as to re-gravel 483 kilometers, while also targeting to construct 22 bridges. It's back to you in the studio.
Thanks a lot, Theophilus Juma, there giving us that brief and speaking to the Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development. And obviously, infrastructural development, one of the key highlights of government, as Zimbabwe is set to mark 40th independence anniversary on the 18th of April. Our independence feature is coming next.
Now, the Secretary for Administration for ZANU-PF, Comrade Obert Mpofu, says the choice of Bulawayo as the venue for the 40th anniversary has a historical significance. Let's hear him speak in the following report.
We are one of the few countries in the continent to educate the youths. Our youth are the most educated, and education is empowerment. You see, people always associate education with employment. No, it is really enhancing the intellectual capacity of a human being to allow him or her to decide on what he wants to do in life. And this is really something that very few countries have achieved. Besides, our youth, they have been empowered in some areas. Like I spoke about land. We're the only country where you have young people owning land, them to look for employment. But of course, with the attempts by our detractors to make it difficult for us to get jobs, it has been one area that the government and the party has had to contend with.
Now, government has urged Sun Yifeng Tao's company Norton to comply with health and environmental laws after complaints by various stakeholders of disregard of local laws.
Representatives of various government departments, including the National Social Security Authority (NASA), the Environmental Management Agency (EMA), the Ministry of Health and Child Care, as well as the Zimbabwe National Water Authority (ZINWA), cited several missteps by the company despite repeated calls to comply.
Also about the issue of personal protective clothing, where we look at the workers, they are supposed to be well dressed so that they fit in our provisions of the laws. Whenever they are doing their work, they are supposed to be comfortable and also protect it from dust.
There was also an issue of Sunny Feng, just making some local arrangements with the farmers out there, and then they would just collect some raw materials without proper licenses.
They should have a clinic with the professional staff. During our last visit, the clinic was there, not a clinic as such, but just a room down floor with a nurse aide. So we are saying they should have qualified staff, a trained nurse, a doctor assigned to work here.
Minister Mary Mliswa confirmed having called for the meeting to iron out issues and ensure smooth operations at the company, which she described as a massive investment that employs over 1,700 employees.
We wanted to educate them and engage with them regarding the way that we do things. So we sat down and we came up with a coordinating committee which would be able to help them to steer their ship of this big investment which is in our province, which we're really happy about, so that everything that they do is according to our policies and procedures.
Sunny Feng Vice President Mr. William Gung promised to act on these negative findings.
We are intent to comply with everything, and then we follow all the regulation, all the rules, the law. So we need to have a very clear instruction from them. After that, we follow the step-by-step.
Government appreciates the contribution being done by foreign-owned companies to economic growth and development, but says that this should be done in a manner that does not harm the environment as well as the safety and health of local citizens. Now, government has allayed fears of cattle disease outbreaks, saying officials from the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Water and Rural Resettlement are closely monitoring the situation, with massive vaccination programs having been rolled out.
In a post-cabinet media briefing held in Harare this Tuesday, the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Senator Monica Mutrangwa, said the Livestock Department is currently vaccinating cattle in various areas across the country.
With respect to livestock development, the Minister reported that while the routine herd health programs are in progress, the Centre of Veterinary Laboratory, in liaison with other research institutions, are in the process of producing vaccines for such disease as theileriosis as an import substitution measure. Other interventions to improve drought resilience for smallholder livestock farmers include establishing pastures and the seed multiplication centers to improve livestock productivity. Regarding the reported slaughter and sale of unhealthy cattle, the Minister advised that, as per procedure, the Veterinary Services Department supervises the slaughter of all livestock.
The Minister of Lands, Water and Rural Resettlement, retired Air Chief Marshal Perensiri, also responded to some social media reports on the sale of disease-infected livestock.
We have 2 to 3 extension workers in every ward, and no report has been received from those extension workers to that effect, especially from Mondoro. And that now casts doubt on the authenticity and the reliability of the reports. Nevertheless, we have taken heed of those reports, and given that the Veterinary Services Department is charged with the inspection of meat during slaughter processes, we have issued out an instruction to the effect that no cattle from disease-affected areas should be sold for slaughter, or livestock of any sort.
A progress report on alignment of statutes to the Constitution was also received.
The laws to be aligned have been categorized into 10 clusters, namely media and information, security, citizenship and movement of people, local government, social services, environmental and natural resources, justice delivery, economic services, political and civil rights, and cross-cutting. To date, out of a total number of 183 statutes which were to be aligned with the Constitution, 144 have been amended.
Cabinet also received progress update on the implementation of the 5th 100-day cycle priority project.
And Cabinet noted the progress which has been made in the following priority areas. A, expansion of coke oven production. B, expansion of ferrochrome production. C, construction of a plant to manufacture explosives for use on mining activity. D, establishment of 5 gold milling centers, which will be followed by an additional 20 centers. And E will be implementation of an MMCZ credit scheme for small-scale miners, which will be availed to them very soon. The Minister tabled proposals for the reallocation of chrome mining claims which were ceded by Zimalways. These claims will be reallocated to other companies which will receive mining claims to sustain and expand ferrochrome production. 20% of the claims will be ceded from a total of 11,747 hectares. And about that 20% which I'm talking about, out of all the 11,747, will be ceded and be reserved for war veterans.
Today's Cabinet also received a report on the 40th Independence Anniversary celebrations, whose main celebrations will be held in Bulawayo, and progress recorded in the energy sector and the rehabilitation of roads and bridges damaged by Cyclone Idai. Abigail Tembo, ZBC News, Harare.
Well, one of the talking points as well at that post-cabinet briefing was the issue of the COVID-19 and government's level of preparedness. Minister Mtrangwa also speaking about that.
Our minister is actually in Tanzania. There's a meeting of SADC ministers so that as a bloc we can deal with this death-threatening disease. There are no confirmed cases in Zimbabwe as we speak. And what the government is doing is to make sure that we are prepared. Test kits have been procured, and development partners have also been coming in to help to make sure that we have all the test kits which are required. Now, hospitals have been put on high alert, and all travelers from confirmed cases are being screened at all ports of entry. And they actually put into self-isolation, which we call self-quarantine. As we speak, right now, 195 travelers are under surveillance. And yes, there was an issue of a Mutare woman who got sick from there, and when she came, she died at arrival at Wilkins on the 24th of January. But when the tests for coronavirus were done, she was found negative.
All right, the latest coming from the cabinet briefing that took place in the afternoon today. The Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs has visited members of the Broad Alliance Against Sanctions who have clocked 348 days camped at the United States Embassy in Harare in protest against a legal embargo on Zimbabwe. See more from Tendai Mnengwa.
Their
protest by a pressure group broad alliance against sanctions has reached another level, with the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs having visited the new United States of America embassy in Harare this Tuesday on a fact-finding mission. Foreign Affairs Committee Chairperson Honorable Kindness Paradza told ZBC News that their visit to the embassy was in response to a petition by the anti-sanctions lobby group.
Their prayer is that the American government must remove these sanctions. So the petition Parliament, and the petition came to my committee as Foreign Affairs Committee, and we're dealing with that. So we decided to come here on a location, but apparently we are waiting because of our diplomatic relations with America. We were waiting for the Attorney General to look at the legal framework so that we can attend to it, because we wanted to see them on location and hear their views here on location. We are doing whatever we can to make sure that these sanctions are removed. And as the President said, we'll continue to negotiate, to engage with the Americans. At our level, as Parliament, we are also engaging with the Congress. And I've written to my colleagues at Congress to say, can we discuss this issue there at Congress or here in Harare?
Comrade Paradza also took a swipe at legislators from the opposition MDC who were conspicuous by their absence from the tour.
You know, the MDC, they called for these sanctions, so I think they were ashamed to come here and face these people. So, but we are doing whatever we can to make sure that these sanctions are removed.
Broad Alliance Against Sanctions chairperson Kelvin Chitsunge appreciated the visit by the Parliament, saying it shows government's commitment to take up the fight against sanctions.
We are going to wait for that date. We cannot deny or make them in a hurry because we are not aware on the procedures they take. But the fact that they were here today, they will be here or will be there at Parliament the other day. It makes it a calendar to them, to our existence. So we are ready to be there and we are prepared, and we are very hopeful that the government or Parliament will see it fit to enact such that act, that is Zimbabwe Patriotic Act.
The anti-sanctions lobby group has clocked 348 days camping at the new USA embassy and has since handed over another petition calling for the unconditional lifting of the sanctions. Tentai Munengwa, ZBC News, USA Embassy in Harare.
Right, that report there from Tendai Munengwa takes us into the next issue. This one under discussion from yesterday, the use of social media and politics, or shall we say the abuse of social media and politics, in particular reference to one of the stories that has been hogging the limelight, the post by Professor Jonathan Moyo on what he has termed the Kwekwe Agreement. Joining us in the studio today, we have the former MDCT Vice President, Mr. Obed Gutu. He's here to speak to us about this matter and, of course, other related. Mr. Gutu, thank you very much for speaking to us here on the main news.
Thank you, Butler, for having me.
I'm sure you've been following what's been taking place on social media, in particular reference to the references by Professor Jonathan Moyo. What's your take?
Really, but let me start by saying social media is it's like a double-edged barrel. Really, it is with the upside and the downside.
Yep.
So I'm actually very active on social media,
yeah,
particularly on Twitter, and I believe that, look, used responsibly, social media is actually a good tool for socio-economic regeneration and development. But also used irresponsibly, it's a lethal weapon. It can actually lead to a war because there's so much fake news being spread and also being manufactured on social media. So my own take is that, look, most of the social media in this country, especially on Twitter, really one has to filter through it. If you just take everything at face value, you can actually have a heart attack because most of the time you get fake news, you get news that is exaggerated. Sometimes you just get news that is just so twisted that although it is genuine, but it's given a certain slant that at the end of the day it loses its intended purpose. So social media, like I said, whatever we do with it is we should handle it with care.
Do you politicians handle it with care?
I would say yes and no, because like I said, you can use social media. Some people use it to brand themselves personally. They need not be politicians. Most politicians, we use it obviously to communicate with our constituency and also with the outer world, the outside world. So I would say yes, Yes and no, because sometimes we do it in a way you want to maybe just to provoke your supposed adversary or adversaries. You just want to hear them out. Sometimes you are just there to communicate a message or messages. So you can't really put it in a straitjacket. It's so diverse. It's so multifaceted. But I would say, look, at the end of the day, I think social media it's here to stay. What we should just do is just make sure that we use it responsibly.
How do we draw the line between using it responsibly and using it for ulterior motives?
I think there's really now a need really to have some kind of a law, a regulatory framework or mechanism which is meant to regulate the use, or rather, let me call it the responsible use of social media. Because if it is, like I said, used irresponsibly, it can actually be a lethal weapon, which, like I've already said a few seconds ago, can lead even to a war. So I would actually strongly advocate that our parliament should come up with, actually, I'm happy that the head of a cyber security law that is going to be piloted through parliament. I think that law is actually overdue, because in this country you have a situation where most people actually open ghost accounts. I've had in my own case a ghost account which is not my account, and I had to actually complain to Twitter. So we actually have to have a law that regulates how people not only use it, but how they register their identity. Most of the people don't want to be seen for they are. They don't want to be seen as butler. They want to use some funny names or funny pictures, because they know that they are there to push a particular ulterior agenda, which might not necessarily be, socially acceptable. Sometimes you actually come across, obscenities, language that is not, fit for, for family use or even for ordinary human, decent human existence.
We had Ambassador Chris Mtrangwa yesterday, and we're speaking in particular reference to the postings that we've seen from Professor Jonathan Moyo. He makes reference to what is called the Kwekwe Agreement, power transfer deal. We've heard about this.
Yes,
and a lot of people have been following that.
Yes.
Any truth to it? What do we read from the political landscape?
To start with, it's a blue lie. I've actually, on one occasion, actually responded to some of those tweets to say, look, this is not the first time that we have had some of these breaking news stories. We were told that February was going to be the month where there's going to be a coup. The government is going to be overthrown. There's going to be a coup d'etat, and there's going to be a new president. President Mnangagwa is not going to be in power by February. And then I remember actually tweeting to say, look, there's not going to be a November in February, or vice versa, or a February in November. So, I mean, you should also understand Professor Moyo on a number of levels, on the intellectual level, the political level. He is obviously trying to set a certain agenda. And unfortunately, people sometimes just look at messages at face value. That's why I say there is need for any right-thinking person to say, whatever you come across, particularly on social media, filter it through. If you just take it to hook, line, and sinker, butler, you'll be so fed with false news, fake news, propaganda, and you end up believing it. Because none of what he has said has come to truth. He obviously, like I said, has to be understood on several levels. He's pushing a political agenda. I think his own interest in the party. He was, I think, in ZANU-PF, and what happened to him is what happened to him. And he obviously is coming across as very bitter, very angry with the present administration led by President Mnangagwa. But look, that's his own business. Now, unfortunately, for most of the Twitter followers, they just believe some of these things at face value. And when it doesn't happen, obviously they get disappointed because their emotions would have been whipped. There is this raise of expectations, and all of a sudden it doesn't happen. Like this February, mambo jumbo. We are now in March, almost mid-March. But there's not going to be a November 2017 in March either. But this is what some people are actually expecting. Some were saying, look, this February we're going to see stuff happening, but stuff didn't happen.
It then also brings you to think that there's obviously then brings us to why we are talking about this, because it obviously causes some measure of worry and some measure of panic when you do read across it, because you also want to look at it from a point of view where this is someone who was in ZANU-PF, for example, who at some point used to provide information that you might term reliable, and then you see them doing pretty much the same thing.
Yeah,
and
I agree with you, but
it
it causes a lot of anxiety.
Yeah,
a lot of and the anxiety is negative. I would call it negative energy. Negative energy. Why? Because it's the kind of energy that makes people upset, that makes people expect upheaval. Sometimes even people expect bloodshed. Because if you are talking of a coup, I mean the ordinary meaning or input of a coup to the average person is bloodshed. You are seeing guns, hearing guns, you are seeing people being killed, and that's what an ordinary meaning of a coup entails. So I think really there's need to regulate these things. I go back to the issue of Parliament really has to come up with this act, because if we don't do that, I mean, I can just wake up one morning, I open about 100 fake Twitter accounts or Facebook accounts, and I spread all sorts of news to say, right now there is war in the city of Harare, or there is a war in cabinet ministers are fighting, the president is fighting, the vice president, and vice versa. I mean, people are just so agitated, and most of the agitation, like I said, it's anchored on fake news. And the whole idea is, like I said, when we have to understand the man on those levels, on the political level, the personal level, he obviously is, I think, is very unhappy. I think he enjoyed the trappings of power. As a political member in ZANU-PF, as a cabinet minister, powerful guy, was even controlling you guys here at ZBC. So I think he feels like he has been left out, and he wants to hit back. But no, look, it's his problem, not Zimbabwe's problem.
Do you think there's a point where, for example, politicians would need to, I know you've got your differences, obviously, within politics, but get to a point where sometimes it is necessary to just come out with one voice with regards to issues of this matter, because these are issues that do affect the ordinary Zimbabwean who's out there, and sometimes politicians have a tendency of taking that for granted.
No, I agree with you, Butler. To say, look, most of the time, I'll talk about myself. I've come out to say, look, I put the interest of Zimbabwe first. And most of the time people have actually said, I know good to this report by ZANU-PF, no, this guy is ZANU light, what. I mean, because, I mean, the moment I'm pushing a Zimbabwe agenda, people confuse being a patriot or pushing a Zimbabwe-centric agenda with being with ZANU-PF. I don't know why, if I'm saying whatever happens to my country, to me it's important and I have to fight for it, I have to protect my country's interests. The moment that I'm saying, okay, I reached my Damascus moment. I used to be one of those guys who was passionately pushing for the sanctions agenda, but now I'm passionately anti-sanctions. And I'm saying, why? Because I've reached a Damascus moment. And I think it's only fair. When I then realized and reflected, I realized that Zidera is a weapon of mass destruction. It's a WMD. The amount of suffering that Zidera has caused to ordinary people in the village, ordinary people in the townships, in the farms. I mean, it's lethal. So all I'm saying is, as politicians, we should know that Zimbabwe's interests come first. So if Zimbabwe's interests have to come first...
Because Zimbabwean interest is not ZANUized.
No, absolutely not. I've always said, look, I'm not a member of ZANU, and I don't want to believe that if I push a Zimbabwe-centric agenda, I therefore become ipso facto a ZANU activist. If that is how people say it, I mean, it is what it is. But I'm Zimbabwean first, and I push a Zimbabwe-centric agenda.
Fantastic. Well, Mr. Gutu, we could go on and on and on and talk about this, but thank you very much for joining us and speaking to us on the main news.
Thank you very much, Butler, for having me.
All right. Social media is always an exciting talking point. Mr. Obed Gutu there, former MDCT Vice President, speaking to us regarding the issue of social media and, of course, politicians and their use or abuse of social media. Elsewhere, Palestine says it will forever remain grateful to Zimbabwe and the African Union for their continued support for the cause of the people of Palestine who are under Israeli occupation. See more in the following report.
Presenting a lecture on peace and security challenges in the Middle East at the Zimbabwe National Defense University in Harare this Tuesday, the Chargé d'Affaires at the Embassy of Palestine, Councillor Salim Siam, said Palestine will continue fighting for its independence.
Our Palestinian people are resilient, and they have the right on their side, and they will not ever give up their rights in their country. We hope for peace. We work for peace with our international friends and partners, and through solidarity, through struggle, we can reach for that if there is a will from the other side.
we hope that the international community could interfere with full force.
Councillor Siam said Palestine values the continued support from Zimbabwe and other friendly nations.
In Zimbabwe, we have very, very excellent relations. Since even before the independence of Zimbabwe, we were comrades in arms, we were supporting Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is now supporting us through political and moral support. And despite all this odd situation which is experienced in this country, but they are firm, and we appreciate their support.
Palestine has been under Israeli occupation for 51 years, the longest in modern history. Abigail Tembo, ZBC News, Harare.
Now, the Zimbabwe Federation of Trade Unions, ZFTU, has urged all workers to give the tripartite negotiating forum a chance to implement agreed recommendations regarding their welfare. Speaking to ZBC News today, ZFTU Secretary General Kenyas Shamyarira said disputes should not be resolved through confrontation.
We wouldn't want at this time to see either of the parties, of the partners, to try and mislead the nation or the workers in an effort to use and usurp the platform of the TNF and pursue other agendas that are outside the mandate of the TNF. Hence, workers, business and government must understand, because we are now a legal framework, any of the partners who tries to deviate must be taken for accountable through the courts of laws. But we cannot jump the gun and mix certain issues. In the TNF, you don't come with the political assertions. You don't come with certain agendas to pursue other handlers behind that are not part and parcel of the TNF. So we are saying to the fellow Zimbabweans and fellow workers that TNF at all costs must be given the chance and the prerogative space to deliberate these issues exclusively. After all, the issue of resolving crisis and dispute through confrontation is not very African to us.
That report there taking us to a break. Here's a look at stories you may still expect in the bulletin. And I'll look at business news. RBZ strategic position on fuel supply gradually paying dividends. Concerns about the Warriors Algeria tie uncertainty as coronavirus fuels speculation. We'll be getting more details on that report from Ian Joma, and we'll bring you more stories, of course, after the break. Do stay tuned.
Information regarding the whereabouts of the missing Chinese couple of Li Ding, male aged 34, and Li Fengqi, a female aged 31. Get in touch with CID Homicide on 0242 758 031, on 0242 758 031, or visit your nearest police station. The couple was last seen on 14 February 2020 in Highlands. A $1 million Zimbabwe dollar reward is being offered. Your assistance will be greatly appreciated.
How is it that you're here?
acting like everything is fine. I'm in your house, this gold went down.
I'm covered by Nico's Diamond Insurance.
Really?
Nico's Diamond Insurance covered for all my property loss, even before I got back. That's why they have an A-grade rating when it comes to claims paying ability.
Like you? So
Yeah.
tell me, why did you bring me?
I couldn't.
Wait.
Don't wait to hit rock bottom. Don't let the unexpected bring you down. Nico's Diamond Insurance makes sure whatever life throws at you, you always come out on top.
The leaders in insurance. Nico's Diamond Insurance, a cut above the best.
I was born in Africa. Africa was born in me. My language is my identity. The drumbeat, sound of my freedom. It's the beauty of my existence, the expression of my passion, my dreams, my love, my pride. I am the future, the hope of my continent. I am uniquely and wonderfully African. I speak African.
Sasai gives you the freedom to truly express yourself with Translate. Find your mother language on the app and let's celebrate the beauty of the African tongue. Sasai, you've got the power.
Nice bucket, boss. Boss? Me? Maybe I am the boss. Let's be successful. Cancel the meeting. Hold on. We need to talk.
What would you like to talk about?
The new Streetwise Bucket for One. It's finger-licking good.
Dear residents and customers, Council is updating customer information to enable dispensing of e-bills and communication of all Council-related matters electronically through platforms that include bulk SMS, email, and WhatsApp. Officials from the Finance Department, Revenue Collection Division will be visiting your properties and premises to register contact details for updating the city's billing system. Furthermore, other platforms are available where information can be sent through emails as below: clientinfo@hararecity.co.zw. Please make sure the account and stand number details are submitted, together with full names and addresses, email addresses, and company contact persons in the case of corporates and organizations. Your cooperation in this regard will be appreciated.
With all the buzz, hashtags, and campaigns on social media, we are bringing you all the trending news from Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world over.
We got games.
Yeah, baby.
We got memes.
Yeah, baby.
We got music videos.
Yes.
And we are going to roast your celebrities. And of course, Asisabe Mutujan Asetugi, because this show, it's a no-holds-barred show.
And we'll bring it right here to the hashtag studio, baby.
We are the social media news updates. And we are the best show happening on a Friday, as we say, thank goodness it's Friday, TGIF.
Yes, baby. Catch us every Friday from 6:30 on ZBC TV and the hashtag studio.
Tweet about it. Don't forget to share it.
And don't forget to also upload it. But just don't take it personally when we come for you. We are
Welcome back. Now, do remember we have various platforms which you may use to get in touch with our news producers, to give them your views and comments, and of course to also catch up on some of the stories that you might have missed on the bulletins that we run here on ZBC TV, Facebook, Twitter, our handles at ZBC News Online, our website address at www.zbc.co.zw. Now, time for us to get more news from our Montrose studios, and I see Arthur is ready to give you more news from that end. Arthur, good evening, and over to you.
Well, it's a very good evening to you, Vicky, and thank you so much to the team at Pocket Hills. Good to see PC on the sign desk as well. Now, this time of the year is probably becoming a calendar moment for those that are progressive thinkers, people that are thinking about research for the future. And that's because my guest this morning, I beg your pardon, I'm still on Good Morning Zimbabwe, on the main news this evening is the Bulawayo Polytechnic principal, Mr. Gilbert Mzenzi Mabasa, who's going to talk to us about the 6th edition of the Research Symposium. Mr. Mabasa, welcome to the main news.
Thank you very much.
Now, I remember discussing this with you 3 years ago, and it's just grown in leaps and bounds. The big question is, when is the Research Symposium going to be?
This year's symposium is going to be on the 12th and 13th of April 2020, right here in Bulawayo, at the Holiday Inn in Bulawayo.
Now, I did allude to people that are progressive, people that are looking for the cutting edge. What is this year's theme of the Research Symposium?
The theme for this year is Beyond the Cutting Edge, because it is going to the anchoring shaft of the whole system. We are looking at TVET solutions for sustainable economic development through heritage-based research.
Interesting. Heritage-based research, basing it on TEFL. Who exactly do you want to see coming to this conference? You know, who are the protagonists? Who's the cast that you want to see attending?
We have a conglomeration of people from different backgrounds with different persuasions, whose common ground is research, seeking solutions to real-life problems using our resources. And these come from higher and tertiary education institutions, universities, polytechnics, academics, industrialists, and the other people who are just freelancing. So it is open field for everybody who cares about life and ourselves as a nation.
Now, amalgamating all these people, the ideas into this symposium, one has to consider the take-homes. What will your focus be this time round?
Our focus is premised on TVET solutions. TVET means technical, vocational, educational training. And we already have got 72 delegates, if I may add, who confirm their participation. We are looking at practical solutions to the community needs. And it is also a way of harnessing new knowledge, which may be new to us, but has been ancient knowledge over the ages, which is why I want to look at the heritage aspect is what is indigenous, what is native, what is inherent in us.
But what is native? What is inherent to us? These are some of the terms that you're referring to. Perhaps these are solutions that we've been sitting on. I've got to ask you this. You call it, you say you're focusing on the TVET heritage-based research in this year's conference. Now, break it down for us in layman's terms, the TVET heritage research, especially focusing on that heritage aspect.
T in TVET is for technical. We are looking at technical means a way of doing things. For instance, to be able to, let's say, to find a macimbi. You would think you look up the tree to see the macimbis, but no. You look on the ground, you check when the droppings of the amacimbi are a certain dimension, then you know on that tree they are ready. You look at even the life cycle of a woman when she's carrying. At the early stages of pregnancy, she desires or quests after certain types of fruits. At mid-term, at end-term, because her body is connected to nature.
I'm going to end right there because of time, but it's a very interesting idea that, we often talk about what our grandparents used to do, that used to work.
Yes.
And we seem to have changed it, and possibly bringing in technology. It's a remarkable concept. And thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mabasa.
You're welcome.
All right, let's move on with more things that are happening in terms of the investor front, also progressive in nature. Now, a local investor has expressed interest in injecting nearly $1 million United States dollars towards the production of pecan nuts at Valley Irrigation Scheme in Matowa District in the Matabeleland South Province.
Talks between Credcorp Investments and 200 smallholder farmers at Valley Irrigation Scheme on the $1 million investment project are currently underway amid high expectations that the deal will sail through and pave way for the planting of the trees by July this year. Credcorp Investments is also in partnership with government and the Agricultural and Rural Development Authority, ADA, Antelope Estate in Mapisa Matowa District. Speaking to the ZBC News, ADA Antelope Estate Manager Mr. Alec Chinyai said under the proposed lease agreement, the investor will occupy 136 hectares of the 200-hectare piece of land, while capital will be channeled towards revamping infrastructure at the irrigation scheme and production of the pecan nuts.
Each tree, the seedling, is about 20 US, and we wanted to do per hectare, we wanted to invest about 140 plants at 20 US, of which, if the agreement goes through, we wanted to do about 136 hectares. Then the total value of the trees on them is about 380,000.
The investor is also offering 44 tons of maize and 65 tons of wheat, which is to be paid to farmers before initial harvest, which are expected in 8 years. After the first harvest, the farmers will get 5% of the nuts invested, whose estimated value is 1.5 million rand. The proposal is being seriously considered by smallholder farmers who have been facing a host of operational challenges, including inconsistent power supplies.
Uma senze nje sehlulekile ukulima ngoba silenjini eyodwa kanti futhi okusitshayeleleyo nguzesa silamagetsi sukela ngoSeptember nyake.
The sisayenzi agreement la singayisayini kodwa lapha akade sinike khona agreement ukuthi i-proposal agreement ukuthi sibale sizwisisile sa correct lapha esifuna ukuthi sicorrecte khona but ayikasayinwa kodwa besikwamukela.
Isivumelwano lesi sika baba lo singena kuyi sibona ngani sizuncedo kithi ngoba sekulesikhathi eside singatholi lutho yona inzuzo singasalimi.
In the long term, the potential investor who is seeking to have a niche in the lucrative pecan nut industry intends to expand the scheme from 200 to 400 hectares. Valley is a communal irrigation scheme in Donkodongwe area in Kezi, run by 200 farmers. Despite efforts by the Food Agriculture Organization FAO and a non-governmental organization Sizimele to rehabilitate the scheme, the producers have not been able to realize their full potential. For ZBC News, Kezi in Matowa District.
Well, MDC infighting in Victoria Falls is continuing following the suspension of a councillor on allegations of undermining an elected party official barely 2 weeks after the suspension of the mayor, Councillor Samvelo Dlamini.
In Victoria Falls have demonstrated the growing disunity and factionalism within the opposition MDC party, according to political analysts. After suspending the Victoria Falls mayor for failing to step down from the post, the MDC has suspended Victoria Falls Ward 10 councillor Nkanyiso Sibindi on allegations of insulting the party's Matabeleland North provincial chairperson, Prince Dubeko Sibanda. In a letter addressed to the suspended councillor, who is also the party's Swange West Youth Assembly Organizing Secretary, Sibanda informed Sibindi that he has been relieved of his duties for contravening the party's constitution. Sources close to the development say MDC leader Mr. Nelson Chamisa has also shown huge interest in the ongoing fights in Victoria Falls and is allegedly seeking to impose Ward 1 councillor Margaret Valley as the new mayor. According to information gathered, the MDC leader has allegedly summoned the Victoria Falls councillors to the party's headquarters to whip them into line. While it is clear that recent recalls and suspensions are aimed at silencing dissenting voices and consolidating power, MDC Provincial Chairperson Prince Deweko Sibanda downplayed the infighting, suggesting that the developments are mere disciplinary processes.
This is a clear issue of trying to instill discipline within the party. Every member who joins a party should understand that there is a certain decorum of discipline that is expected of them. And if they conduct themselves in a manner that is prima facie against the expectations of the party, then that person is subjected to a disciplinary action.
Well, Bulawayo is known as the City of Kings and Queens, and in the memory of the International Women's Day, a couple of queens were honored this Monday by a certain fuel station.
International Women's Day is celebrated differently in many countries worldwide. In countries such as Italy, the day is acknowledged primarily by the giving of bright yellow mimosa blossom flowers. These flowers are viewed as a symbol of female strength and sensibility. To celebrate Women's Day this year, some local service stations offered their services to women only as a way of lessening the burden that women carry day in, day out. Women interviewed by this news crew in Bulawayo expressed joy at the service offered to them by some fuel stations.
We've got a lot of things to take care of, and we are here, we are always on the queues. At least if they can give us first preferences they're doing today here, I think that would be great.
Much can be done to make sure women are well appreciated because they are very important. It's like they have a double shift to play, especially if they are working women.
It feels good to be recognized and acknowledged in society.
Even men appreciated the gesture by the service stations.
On daily basis, even usiku masikati ngavaramba vachidira no problem. The
2020 theme for this year's International Women's Day is I Am Generation Equality and is aligned with the UN Women's New Multi-Generational Campaign, which marks the 25th commemoration of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, where heads of state devoted to ensuring gender equality is achieved in their countries.
Indeed, a noble act. And on that note, we're going to take us back to Pockets Hill with the reminder from my side as a man that International Men's Day is on the 19th of November, and hopefully we men will also get preference at the fuel stations. Over to you, team.
Thanks a lot, Arthur Evans. Can't wait for that. It would be great if we could also get our own queue and other niceties that comes with Men's Day. Well, the continuation of celebrations for International Women's Day. Women broadcasters said the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation applauding government for enacting women-friendly policies. They also had their fair share of celebrations to mark International Women's Day.
The 8th of March was International Women's Day, marking the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which is regarded as the most progressive roadmap for the empowerment of women and girls worldwide. Women broadcasters at the National Broadcaster ZBC applauded the government for continuing to uplift women, but feel more still needs to be done for gender parity to be achieved in the broadcasting industry.
We have conveniently said we have more women in positions of authority in the media industry, but you'll find them in places or in positions that don't have as much influence. Are women actually getting more opportunities to see what they can do? I've always said that when a woman is put in a position of authority, she works harder because she has a lot more to prove.
We still feel as women, we are not really given that platform that equates to what's offered to our male counterparts with regards to taking up spaces in the different forums.
We've got more and more women who are now entering the broadcasting sector, and I think for us it's really a great milestone for women.
I would like to applaud the whole country and our government following our new constitution that we wrote, all of us, in 2013. There's much more for women there.
The Zimbabwe Constitution under Section 17 calls on the state to promote gender balance in the Zimbabwean society, and in particular with regards to promoting the full participation of women in all spheres of society on the basis of equality with men. Abigail Tembo, ZBC News, Harare.
Former ZANU-PF Deputy Secretary for Youth Affairs, Comrade Louis Matutu, and two other participants, Gledman Mzilikazi and William Natenga, have graduated from the Chitepo School of Ideology after attending a basic orientation course.
Upon establishment in 2016, the Chitepo School of Ideology was tasked with conscientizing ZANU-PF party members and other Zimbabweans on the revolutionary values. Many have since passed through the college, and this Friday was yet another important day for those who had completed training. Chitepo School of Ideology Principal Comrade Mnyaradzi Machacha said Comrade Matutu attended a basic orientation course as directed by the Politburo and will again attend an in-depth course starting next month.
This course was attended by Comrade Louis Matutu as an instruction from the Politburo. We as a school decided to start with the basic orientation course, and you will again be coming to a more in-depth higher course, the cadre development course.
The participants highlighted what they learnt from the course.
Chitepo has got a lot of things that I'm actually realizing now that I wasn't exposed to before. We learned about international relations, the importance of engaging with other countries and making sure that our position as a country and as a party is known and is clear.
Takadzidza zvakawanda Chitepo School of Ideology kubvira pa colonialism, kusvika ku nationalism, kusvika the formations of the parties ZANU-PF, kusvika party rinhasi.
Chekutanga theme of the school Chitepo School of Ideology inotaura kuti tinofana kuita decolonize the mind, kubvisa pfungwa dzeutsvanyiri dzinenge dziri mupfungwa dzakati wandei muvanhu vedu vemusangano. Inyaya yekuti haisi bhosve yavo bati vachena pfungwa dzavakapiwa nadzo dzavakauya nadzo kuno dzinokanganisa kuti munhu asafunge zvekuenderera mberi nokuona kuti urongwa hunofamba sei.
Comrade Matutu was suspended from his position as Deputy Secretary for Youth Affairs for indiscipline after he addressed a press conference with former Youth League Secretary for the Commissariat, Godfrey Tsenengamo, who was subsequently expelled from the party.
Take a look now at what has been taking place at the courts. Two major stories we're reporting on. One regarding socialite and businessman Genius Kadungure, and the other one on former Zenara Chief Executive Officer Frank Chitukutuku.
The court postponed to the 20th of this month the matter in which the embattled businessman Genius Kadungure is being charged as director of Pico Trading and Pioneer Gas for evading tax. The postponement is pending an out-of-court settlement between Kadungure and Zimra, where the accused businessman has intentions of paying off his debt to the revenue collector. Through his lawyer Jonathan Samkange, Kadungure told the court that Zimra and Kadungure were supposed to have a meeting this Tuesday to settle the matter, and could only be done in the afternoon since he was appearing in court on the same day. However, the court queried the communication breakdown between the state and the complainant amid revelations that the state, represented by Andrew Kumire, was not abreast with the engagement between Kadungure and Zimra. In this matter, Kadungure, through his company, Pico Trading, misrepresented facts to Zimra with the intention of evading paying tax.
A look at what's happening in the courts there, taking us to the latest of what's happening in business. The supply of fuel in the country is slowly improving after the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe adopted a strategic position of releasing weekly statistics of allocations to oil marketing companies.
The central bank last week made a commitment that it will religiously notify the public about funds released for fuel procurement. The RBZ has to date released an equivalent of 43.71 million United States dollars for the purchase of 62.4 million liters of both petrol and diesel, which translates to around 4.5 million liters of fuel daily for the 14 days under review. A survey by the ZBC News showed the move by the central bank has had a positive impact on the market, as evidenced by the reduction of queues. Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce Chief Executive Officer Mr. Christopher Mgaga says, while it is a commendable initiative, there is need for urgent attention on the pricing mechanism.
A facility was put, but when a businessman goes out there and realizes that I can fetch more through selling underground than at pump, they are naturally attracted to selling in the black market. So yes, indeed, it's a good move when you see the whole push for transparency, but as long as the pricing framework is not realistic, as long as the pricing framework is not somehow creating or maybe reflecting on the equilibrium within the market, we will continue seeing the queue somehow cropping up time and again.
Economic analyst Mr. Titus Mkowe is optimistic that the recent move by the central bank will achieve the desired results.
This will go a long way in improving accountability. And one thing that is important about this facility is that fuel is already in stock in Zimbabwe, and the fuel is going to be available in Zimbabwean dollars. And in the short term, we actually anticipate that there is going to be stability in terms of the price of fuel, and there's going to be reduction in terms of the premiums that the black market is flourishing with.
Hopes are also high that the recent knock on international fuel prices to around $32 per barrel could be a blessing in disguise, which might result in the reduction of the price of the commodity on the local market. Davson Vandira, ZBC News, Harare.
Well, global markets bouncing back today after the worst day of trading since the financial crisis induced by the outbreak of the coronavirus. Here's a look at how the market traded today. A bit of a bump there, but we're looking at the stocks, the stock market, global markets bouncing back today after the worst day of trading since the financial crisis induced by the outbreak of coronavirus. The local bourse also trading positively today, with the exception of two indices, and I'm sure we'll be bringing you what happened during trading today on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. But of course, there was a lot of talk today about how those global markets took a tumble yesterday, and people having lost billions of dollars, particularly with the drop that was recorded on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We'll be giving you more on what's been taking place on the international markets later on. We'll take a break. Join us for the arts after.
I was born in Africa. Africa was born in me. My language is my identity. The drumbeat sound of my freedom. It's the beauty of my existence, the expression of my passion, my dreams, my love, my pride. I am the future, the hope of my continent. I am uniquely and wonderfully African. I speak African.
Sasai gives you the freedom to truly express yourself with Translate,
Find your mother language on the app and let's celebrate the beauty of the African tongue. Sasai, you've got the power.
A fool with a plan can outsmart a genius without a plan. Don't fall victim to the ready aim syndrome. Not only the first billion is the hardest, but the first step as well. Big rewards require big risks, and the road to success is foggy and covered with potholes. Do not miss the opportunity to hear from successful Kenyan and revered serial entrepreneur Jerry Rionge as she tackles issues to do with the reflections, successes, failures, and opportunities for aspiring billionaires at the 7th edition of the CEO Africa Roundtable from the 18th to the 20th of March at Elephant Hills Resort, Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, under the theme Industry 4.0. What is in it for Africa? To register, email fungai@ceoart.org or call +263 715 427 935. Also contact Agrina on +263 716 473 576 or email agrina@ceoart.org. CEO Africa Roundtable, championing economic development across Africa.
What if we made sure our ideas were heard? What if we took up space? Glad we're not in our 20s.
Now what happened to the music? Well, I want to hear something with a bit of life. I want to see people dancing.
Son, I've been preparing you for this since you was a baby. You gotta understand what's at stake. And if it all go right, we're gonna announce real soon that you're taking over No Limit.
I was born in Africa. Africa was born in me. My language is my identity. The drumbeat, sound of my freedom. It's the beauty of my existence. The expression of my passion, my dreams, my love, my pride. I am the future, the hope of my continent. I am uniquely and wonderfully African. I speak African.
Sasai gives you the freedom to truly express yourself with Translate. Find your mother language on the app and let's celebrate the beauty of the African tongue. Sasai, you've got the power.
If you're confused about healthcare, it's easier to put your trust in us, where every contribution is secure and you can be sure that your membership card will be accepted. So relax, you're in safe hands with us. With access to world-class medical providers, little to no shortfalls, and free iGo membership for all our seamless members. Join us today. Together, we make a difference.
When the time comes for you to close the chapter on a family empire built on betrayal.
Here's your ring.
Go! Dig deep and stay focused as you realize the heights of your potential. Through trust and partnership, the support you need will be received. I'm sure you'll get to the bottom of it. And stay hopeful and confident while discovering secrets that send shivers down your spine. Solve the puzzle to life's mysteries anytime, anywhere when you download the DSTV Now app.
I was born in Africa. Africa was born in me. My language is my identity. The drumbeat, sound of my freedom. It's the beauty of my existence, the expression of my passion, my dreams, my love, my pride. I am the future, the hope of my continent. I am uniquely and wonderfully African.